My name is Shiraz Balolia and I'm the CEO of Grizzly Industrial Inc. You probably watched my video on me building the stand for this smaller anvil. Today I'm going to walk you through building this wonderful, one-of-a-kind base for the larger anvil. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, so as you can see, these are big beams. They are glue-lam beams, but they're not completely square. And the challenge is, how do you square and clean up the surface of a big glue-lam like this? So we have an old 20-inch jointer that I'm going to clean one edge, flip it over on the side, and then run it to the planer so I get 3 good sides, and then I'll try and do the 4th side as well. I've done the one side and then made sure that this is square, and as you can see, it's perfectly square, the table to the fence. So those 2 sides are square. I'm now going to take this and run it to the planer to get this exactly flat against that. Okay, so I've trued up all the blocks, all 4 blocks that are going to get glued together with this special epoxy, which is structural grade epoxy. So what I've done is I've countersunk some holes in here, and as I glue them up, I'm going to drive these big lag bolts inside to hold them together. So they have double strength. They have the glue up strength or the epoxy strength as well as the lag bolts. So once this block is all glued up together, I'm going to wrap it up with 2 layers of 5/4 plywood just to give it the dimension I need. This here is the Aerodux 185 resin epoxy that is used for glue-lam, which actually this is a glue-lam right here, and they use it for making structural joints. It's a 2-part epoxy where you need 5 parts of the liquid and 1 part of the powder by weight. I got about 7 to 10 minutes once this is applied on, and then I can wash it off with some warm water, which I've got sitting here on a cart. All right, I'm going to lift this up and we're going to screw that in. You can see that I had it pre-marked where I wanted it. All right, I'm going to go ahead and wipe the excess off. Because once this thing hardens, then the only way to get it off is to scrape it off. That's 1 set of blocks that is all glued together. We'll do the rest of them and then we'll wrap it with 5/4 plywood. You will notice that I also left the sides a little bit lower than the block because the top is going to be capped with a piece of Bubinga and the anvil is going to sit on top of the Bubinga. So when you pound on the anvil, I didn't want any of the pounding to go on the sides. I want it to be centered on the block, which is the one that's going to do all the hard work and take the heavy lifting. Alrighty, so this block is ready to be wrapped. So next what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some rosewood flooring that was left over from my house from 30 years ago. And there's some over here, and we'll go ahead and break it out. Now this was custom milled tongue and groove flooring. You can see there's 30 years worth of dust on here. All Indian rosewood, which you cannot buy nowadays because of CITES regulations. So this is very rare, and it's extremely heavy and dense. What I've done is I've cut one piece just as a sample to show how it's going to go on. Okay, so because this is such a dense and hard wood, you cannot use a regular nail gun. You use a nail gun on this, the wood's going to just split. And so what you have to do, what I will have to do is pre-drill every hole so that I can screw in these finished screws, because this corner is going to get wrapped with a very large piece of aluminum that's going to be powder coated. So I finished cutting all the pieces a little bit oversized, and you can see that here's the pile of the number of pieces I need. So we're going to take this to the table saw, and I'm going to finish cut it to the exact and squareness that I need. So the finished size I need is going to be 16¼ inches. So I'm going to cut one side to 16�3/8 and then readjust it and cut the other side to 16�4. So that way both sides are completely square and perfectly the length that I need. See, that's exactly 16�4 inch, exactly what I need. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut the rest of it. So I've turned the block over. This is the bottom of the block, and I put it on this Grizzly radial drill press. This is a unique drill press because it can drill in the center of like 5 feet diameter, and you can move it out of the way for bulky jobs. It's perfect for this job. You know, rather than drill by hand and get a crooked hole, I'm going to use a drill press. So that's why I have it set up here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a 1-inch hole, and we made these little plates that will go inside the hole, and ultimately the idea is so we can screw in this nice adjustable foot, leveling foot on each end. Okay, so these rosewood pieces have been cut to length, and there's two sides to them. There's one side that's thinner, so we got to be very careful. I've gone ahead and sorted them and marked an O for outside. And these are tongue and groove, which will be screwed in place. The reason we're not going to use a nailer is because, as I explained before, the nailer will split this wood. It's so hard that it will split this wood. So I'm going to pre-drill the holes. And I've got this set up on my milling machine. It's good to have all these nice tools. So I got this set up where I marked all the boards, and I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill right through at the right angle. Eventually, we'll end up with, this is a rough board, a test board. It'll be countersunk in there, and this part will go into the plywood. It'll suck it in. And then the next piece will come over and cover that screw head, and you won't even see it. So as you can see, I've started wrapping the rosewood tongue and groove pieces onto the big block. Basically, it's glued in place, and then there's little countersink screws that are going to go in, and they hold. This is solid. It's not going to come off. And I'm going to cover the corner up with this aluminum wrap that's going to be painted black to match the anvil, but that will completely protect the edges and also cover up these screws that are holding the start blocks. So the trick here is I'm going to rough sand this for the glue, and then sometimes rosewood can be a little oily, and so I'm going to wipe it down with naphtha so that if there's any oils in the wood, it's going to be removed so that the glue will adhere to it better. So just doesn't need to be anything exotic, just something simple. Rough it up. So now I'll take some naphtha and wipe these down. And this is the sequence I'm going to go in. I've already laid them out to color match them a little bit. And we'll just take some naphtha and this will disappear in a few seconds. Kind of give you an idea of what the oil is going to look like too when I hit it with oil after I sand it. It's actually, I'm going to finish it to 600 grit, so it'll be like a mirror. You can see it's picked up all the dust and any oils in the wood. Goes in like that. I've put wax paper underneath so that the base, the glue will not stick to anything else. And then I tap it in a little bit. And then got some water handy with a paper towel. Any excess glue, I'm going to wipe it off just in case. So you don't want anything sticking out. And we'll do the next one. So basically, I'm using one of the sides of the rosewood pieces as a measuring because I want them to be exactly the same length. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this back right up to the blade, almost up to the blade because the blade is staggered right there. Make sure this is square. And then I'm going to lock the vise down, and that's got the grip. So I've got aluminum cutting fluid here. There we have it. Nice piece of aluminum that's cut exactly the length we want it to be. Yep, it's perfect. All right, so these are the aluminum corner pieces that are going to go on each corner of the anvil base. And as you can see, I already drilled these holes. Now, of course, I didn't go by these blue marks. I had them precision marked and scribed, and then used a nice ruler to scribe those lines. So what I've done, the good thing about using a milling machine is I can record. So my left reading is 0, and then I'll go to 5.122 and then 10.244, so that when I go back to countersinking these holes, I can be at the same spot. So once I've finished drilling these holes, I'm going to go ahead and change to the countersink now. Now what you'll notice is they're not exactly in the same plane. And the reason for that is there's going to be screws going in, and I don't want the screws hitting each other. So I've staggered them just a little bit. You'll see the stagger here and the stagger up on top. So the screws don't run into each other when I screw them in. But here's the interesting thing. This is your left. When you look at the unit, these two holes will line up. These two sets of holes will line up. And then you go to the other side. That's how I got them marked. Go to the other side, these sets of holes will line up. So when you're looking at it from any side, you'll see all the holes lining up together. And that is attention to detail. So I've completed the whole base. This thing has been sanded flat so it can accept the big top cap that I'm going to build next. This is the Indian rosewood sides, actually the old rosewood flooring that was repurposed. I finished it to 600 grit. I know, it's just an anvil base, but I went a little overboard. These little caps, the aluminum caps you saw me drilling those holes in, they've been painted and they cover up the corners and protect the edges nicely. It's all done. I'm going to work on the Bubinga top cap next. So this is that 8/4 Bubinga. It's not exactly 8/4 right now. It's like 1.9 inches or something like that. This was the width of the slab, the biggest slab I could find that I had in stock. And so I cut off the one end and split it so that I could get book matched ends. And so these will be glued together like this. And I have another piece I'm in the middle of doweling. And so they'll be doweled, glued, and then given the grip of death for gluing. Okay, so what I'm using right now is the Dowelmax doweling jig. I've used many doweling jigs. This is, in my opinion, the best one out there. It's made for industrial use and it's super precise. So I'm putting 2 holes on each end, as you can see over here. There's 2 on each end just for strength at the ends. And I started off over here and I'm going 1, and to the edges. Now the way you do it, you slide it and you pin this. So now you're exactly 1 over, and then when I'm done with that, I'll slide it over and put this on this side and keep drilling until I come to the edge. Now you can also, it comes with this jig so you can adjust the spacing as far as you want. So you could just adjust it, you know, longer or shorter if you want. So let's go ahead and finish this piece right here. Voila, there you go. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue these pieces together, dowel them, and clamp them and let them sit overnight. So we've let it set for about 10 minutes now, and the joint is there. It's not completely dry, but it's dry enough where I can move the block, slide the block over and do the other end. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this thing so I can slide the edges off. Sometimes you need to give them a gentle nudge. All right, so I leave this up like this. I'm going to wet it again, and I'm going to put the dowels. Actually, I'm going to put the dowels on the small end. So we'll just wet this. There we go. I'm just going to spread it out. You want to make sure that you don't have any sawdust picked up and dropped in the middle there, because that will not allow it to join properly. Tap, tap with a mini hammer. Up. We'll use the pipe clamp force. I'm pulling these towards me so that I got plenty of clamping available on that side. Oh yeah, the squeeze out. That's always a good sign. All right, I'm going to wipe off that excess with the water here. Alrighty, that's the end today. So I sanded this down with a belt sander, and obviously it's flat, but it's not perfect. There might be some dips here and there. I went ahead and marked some of the dips. I put a straight edge across and was able to identify where there's some dips. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a coat of this big stretch across the top. It's kind of like when you do flooring and you see them put a flat grout across to make the floor completely flat before they lay the tile on. That's the idea. It's not an adhesive. I don't want it to stick to the top. All I want to do is take up any gaps and fill it in so it doesn't create any voids. Now the edges are lower by design. Just want the cap to sit on top here. So that makes this completely even and flat for my top to sit on. Next, I'm going to go ahead and put the top on. Make sure there's even space in case the wood wants to expand and contract in the future. So this is where it's going to sit. Now the anvil is going to go, there's a little pad that's up here, and the anvil is going to sit on top of this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put these two of these hold down bolts right through the top onto that, just to hold the top in place. So some of you might be cringing right now because I'm going to drill into this top that looks like a coffee table, but hey, what the heck. My goal here is not accuracy. I'm just going to drill deep enough so that the head is underneath the top. So we'll start with this. This is a force with it. So if you recall, when I was gluing this up, there's a glue joint here and a glue joint here. You can't really see those glue joints because the wood is so blended together. However, I wanted the centerpiece to be nice and wide so that when the anvil is pounded upon, it's pounding upon the single piece and not on a glue joint. So that's why we got the wider piece in the middle and the two wings that don't take any impact. So the base for this big anvil is complete. This is a nice Bubinga top. It's finished, nicely oiled. There's 4 coats of oil. And I've put this rubber spacer pad in there to absorb some of the sound. I'm going to go ahead and take this 275-pound German-made anvil and put it on top of this. And I'm going to have my girlfriend Molly give me a hand. That's just about perfect. Couldn't have got it any closer. Let's give it a test. So everything is lined up. We've got the anvil on top of the base. The next thing to do is to make the brackets on the CNC machine so that we can lock the anvil on top of the base. Okay, so you saw me drill these out, these little cones and the holes, so that these screws, when we mount it, will fit right in and flush like that. The next thing I'm going to do, of course, then I went ahead and painted it. And so the next thing I'm going to do is something trick. I'm going to go ahead and put this on my milling machine, and I'm going to face off the paint so that the letters and the frame all pop out with the original aluminum. So it's going to be neat. I'm going to go ahead and lock down the anvil with these hold downs with these gigantic light bolts. Next, I'm going to tighten these set screws for a final clamp down onto the anvil. We're almost there. Thank you so much for watching this build. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience building this. Turned out exactly as I thought it would. This is a great build that will last for generations, and that's why you see the year 2020 written on the plate. I'm very happy. I hope you enjoyed the build. Now let's give it a sound test. That's so corny.